This engine was overheating, and it's about 5 or 6 years old. It's in pretty good shape. It's never been flushed before. This is the first time we've flushed it. Okay, so we were out this weekend on the sailboat, and on the way in, the engine started overheating. So what I'm going to be doing here is flushing out the saltwater side of the engine. So it's a freshwater cooled engine, and then there's a heat exchanger right here that heat exchanges with the salt water. And if you read the instructions, you normally want to flush backwards. And backwards in this case would be taking this rubber hose off, flushing backwards, back through, and then taking off, let's say, at the filter here and dumping that in the bucket. I don't want to do that because I'm afraid this rubber hose, which is bent at a ridiculously tight angle, will never go back and I'll be in trouble. So instead I'm going to flush forward. So the water comes in right here. I have the stopcock just shut off, and I've already disconnected the inlet water line, which is right here, and I've connected it to the discharge side of the pump. That hose then goes through this filter, and I've already cleaned the filter. I've taken the top off and cleaned it, and then it goes back, cools the rear end of the engine, comes forward here. This is the heat exchanger between the propylene glycol freshwater cooling loop and the raw water saltwater loop. It'll come and clean that, and after that it comes out right here and mixes with the exhaust gas and comes out this way. So I've taken off the 2-inch line from the exhaust manifold rather than that, and I've hooked up this piece of large diameter hose. Now this is just a piece of hose I got from the pool supply company, just for flushing, pumping out a pool. This I had laying around. It was just an easy way to do it. So what's going to happen is the water's going to come out of the bucket through the pump. The pump has a strainer just to make sure we don't get any garbage clogging the pump, and then it'll go forward. I'm even going to clean through the filter all the way through the engine, back out of this heat exchanger and into the exhaust. Now before I put the flushing solution in, I just want to make sure there's no leaks or anything. This pump develops 45 psi, so you're going to have to use Teflon on these joints or they will drip. And of course the drip is not a big deal, but if you don't want it to drip, you're going to have to use Teflon. You really don't need Teflon on this side because this is the suction side. If there's a little bit of leak, it'll just pull in a little bit of air. But on this side, if you don't put Teflon on, you're going to leak. So the first step is hook it all up like you see. So it's good. Water's going to come out of here, through the pump, go through the cooling system, exit the cooling system in the discharge manifold, and this blue hose will then take it back into this bucket. Since I'm working with water, I want to make sure everything's flowing nicely before I put the flushing compound in there. So let me just turn it on, make sure everything looks like it's working without leaking. This pump will prime, but if you want, you can prime it yourself. All right, so we're flowing, everything's good. We turn it off. Okay, so now the next step is to put the flushing solution in. Now, I've read online that people talk about this as just acid. It's actually not just acid. There's obviously some acid in there, but there's also metal protectants, because acid is going to attack, just acid alone is going to attack the steel in the engine block, as well as severely attack any aluminum if you have it. It's not really going to bother the brass, but the steel and the aluminum. So now I'm all set. All I got to do now is let this thing run a while and flush. So I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to make sure this hose doesn't jump out and make a mess, and that's it. Now you can see it's coming out. It's not coming out pink right now. It's coming out sort of greenish yellow. So I've got a ways to go. You can see the color there is nowhere near the pink color. So I've got to run this a while until that starts getting pink. It's getting a little pinker now. You can see it. It's starting to really get pink. There's also some foaming. It's eating up some organic material. But the key is, see how much pinker it is now. So it's already starting to do its work. As long as it stays pink, it still has active ingredient. You don't have to add any more. If this line starts going too light, you might have to add a little bit more. And I'd let this run for a while. But you can see we're definitely neutralizing and cleaning. Like I said, this engine was overheating, and it's about 5 or 6 years old. It's in pretty good shape. It's never been flushed before. This is the first time we flushed it, and I did it because I was overheating, mostly at idle when you don't have as much water flow going through. When I ran the throttle up, it would not overheat, so I knew it was a corrosion problem. I'm just holding it because I don't want it to spill all over the floor, or the deck, I should say. I let this run about 15 minutes to get it nice and clean.